So you started building a world. You drew a map, named the countries, designed the magic system, wrote the history of the ancient war, and then you hit a wall. A question you couldn't answer, a contradiction you couldn't untangle. And suddenly, the world that felt so alive in your head starts feeling like a mess on the page. In this video, we'll walk through 9 common problems that world builders face and how to solve them instead of getting stuck in an endless loop of revision. Number 1, scope creep. This is when you start with one magic system and end up with 7. You start with one continent, and suddenly you're mapping the entire planet. You start with the history of one kingdom, and now you're writing a timeline that spans 10,000 years. The world keeps growing and growing, and you never actually start writing the story. Here's the fix. Make your world only as big as it needs to be to start writing. Expand later when you've published something. If your story takes place in one city, you need one city in detail. The rest of the world can exist as vague shapes on a horizon. You can always expand later. But if you're building an entire solar system for a story that takes place in a single tavern, you're procrastinating more than world building. Draw a circle around your story. Everything inside that circle gets built in detail. Everything outside of it gets a sentence at most. And be honest about what's inside the circle. Writers love to convince themselves that a distant continent is relevant because a side character once mentioned it in passing, which isn't really relevant in practice. It's an excuse to keep world building. If a distant kingdom doesn't affect your plot, it doesn't need a detailed 10-page constitution or 300 years of history. It needs a name and maybe a reputation. That's more than enough to start. Number 2, Infodumping the Reader. You've built this incredible world and you want the reader to see all of it. So you stop the story for 3 pages to explain how the magic system works. Or you open with 2 chapters of history before a single character appears. Or a character asks a question that another character answers with a 5-paragraph essay that no real person would ever say out loud. The audience doesn't really need to understand your world before the story starts. They need to understand it as the story goes. World building should be revealed through the story, not before it. A character shouldn't have to always explain something like a caste system. They get treated differently at a market because of where they're from, and the reader will easily figure it out. Show the world in action. Let the details come through character experiences, not narrator explanations. Trust your reader. They're smarter than you think. They don't need a manual before the story starts. Most readers want to discover the world alongside the characters, piece by piece, the same way you'd learn about a foreign city by walking through it rather than reading its Wikipedia page first. Number 3, being inconsistent. Let's say that your world has a rule in Chapter 3 that contradicts something you wrote in Chapter 15. The capital city is described as coastal in one scene and landlocked in another. A character references a historical event with details that don't match the version another character told earlier. This happens because world building accumulates over time, and writers forget what they established. You wrote that rule months ago. You don't remember the exact wording, so you write something slightly different later and don't catch the mismatch. The fix is a world building Bible, a single document, nothing fancy, where you record every rule, every place name, every established fact. When you write a new scene that involves world building, check the Bible first. It doesn't have to be fancy. A simple document with headers for magic, geography, history, culture, and politics is enough. What matters is that you use it. Treat it as a single source of truth and update it every time you add something new. Number 4, making the world too convenient. Everything in the world exists to serve the hero. The perfect mentor lives in the hero's village. The exact weapon needed to defeat the villain sits in a cave an hour from where the hero grew up. The political structure is simply good guys versus bad guys with no nuance. Convenient world building makes the world feel like a theme park designed around the protagonist. The fix is to make the world feel indifferent to the hero. The political conflict should exist regardless of whether the hero shows up. The resources should be unevenly distributed in ways that create real obstacles. The mentor should have their own life and their own reasons for not wanting to help. A world that resists the hero, that makes things harder, that has its own agenda independent of any character, feels alive. A world that bends over backward to give the hero what they need feels boring. Number 5. Cultures that are just costumes. Let's say you've got 5 kingdoms in your world, and each one has a different visual aesthetic. One is inspired by medieval Europe, one looks vaguely East Asian, one is desert-themed. But underneath the surface, every culture behaves exactly the same way. They have the same values, the same social structures, the same attitude toward authority and family and war. The only difference is what the buildings look like. Real cultures are different because of what they believe, not just their physical outward appearance. A seafaring culture values different things than a mountain-based culture. A society built on trade thinks differently than one built on conquest. A culture that worships death as a transition treats funerals completely differently than one that fears death as an ending. When you build a culture, start with beliefs and values. What do these people think is the most important virtue? What do they consider shameful? How do they handle conflict, raise their children, treat outsiders? Once you have those answers, the clothing, the architecture, the food, everything visual will flow naturally from the values, instead of being pasted on top as decoration. Number 6, magic without limits. Picture this. Your magic system can do anything. Need to fly? Magic. Need to heal a fatal wound? Also magic. Need to communicate across continents or resurrect the dead? Magic can probably handle that too. And because magic can solve any problem, no problem in your story ever feels truly threatening. Limitations make powers interesting. Costs make it dramatic. A system where anyone can do anything is a system with no tension. But a system where magic requires a sacrifice, has a physical toll, is restricted by knowledge or resources, or is socially forbidden, that's a system where every time someone uses magic, it's a meaningful decision. The best question to ask about your magic isn't, what can it do? It's, what can't it do? And what does it cost? Your entire power system's dramatic potential lives in the answer to that question. And the cost doesn't have to be physical. It can be social. Using magic might be taboo in certain regions. It can be psychological. Every use might erode the caster's memory or emotional stability. The weirder and more specific the limitation, the more creative your characters have to be when they use it. Number 7, history that doesn't matter. Imagine writing pages and pages of ancient history. Wars, dynasties, fallen empires, legendary heroes. And none of it affects the present-day story. The history exists in a document on your computer. It never shows up on the page. History is only worth building if it has consequences that reach into the present. An ancient war matters if the two sides still hate each other today. A fallen empire matters if its ruins contain something the characters need, or if its descendants are trying to rebuild. A legendary hero matters if people still argue about whether they were truly heroic. The test is simple. For every piece of history you've written, ask, does this affect any character's life, any political situation, or any conflict in the current story? If no, it's background noise. It might be interesting to you, but the reader will never see it. You can keep it in your notes, but don't spend weeks refining history that never touches the plot. Number 8, a monoculture world. Your entire world has one language, one religion, one government, and one attitude about everything. Everybody agrees on what's right and wrong. There's no regional variation, no dialects, no competing ideologies, no cultural tension. Real worlds are messy. People disagree about everything. Two cities 50 miles apart can have completely different customs, their own slang, and wildly different opinions about who the good guys are. That messiness is where story lives. You don't need to build 50 cultures, but you need at least 2 perspectives that clash. Even a small amount of disagreement goes a long way. 2 villages on opposite sides of a river who argue about water rights can generate more story conflict than a Dark Lord in a tower. Even within a single kingdom, there should be tension between different groups, classes, regions, or belief systems. Conflict doesn't always come from a villain. Sometimes it comes from 2 groups of people who both think they're right and neither is willing to bend. Number 9, building the world instead of writing the story. This is the big one, the trap that swallows more writers than any other. You keep building because building feels productive. You keep adding details because more details means a richer world. You tell yourself you'll start writing once the world is ready. The world will never be ready. That's not pessimism, it's just the nature of creative systems. You'll always find another question to answer, another culture to flesh out, another magic rule to define. World building without a story is an encyclopedia, and the only way to know if your world actually works is to put characters in it and see what happens. You'll discover more about your world by writing 10 chapters than by spending 10 months on notes. The story will ask you questions the world-building document never will. A character will walk into a tavern, and you'll suddenly need to know who brews the ale, where the ingredients come from, and why this particular town's version tastes different. That's world-building born from necessity, and it's always more alive than world-building born from preparation. In conclusion, build what you need to start. Then, start writing. Let the story tell you what the world needs next. Avoid falling into the 9 problems: scope creep, info dumping, inconsistency, a world that's too convenient, cultures that are costumes, magic without limits, history that doesn't matter, monocultural details, and world building forever without actually writing. The world is the stage. The story is the show. Don't spend so long building the stage that the audience leaves before the curtain rises. If this video helped you, hit the like button and leave a comment below. Also, if you want to get started writing your first one-shot manga, head over to mangascript.com to download the one-shot guide. It's a page-by-page breakdown of 3 high-quality manga one-shots, and it makes it 10 times easier to write your own script. And don't forget to join our Discord community. The link is in the description. It's a great place to share your work and connect with fellow creators. Thanks for watching.